Good morning. My name is Linda Lingo. I'm a financial coach, so you can find me on everywhere. Facebook, I have lindalingo.com. My cards are back there if you want to take a look at that. And my daughter is here with me today because I'm running her to the airport as soon as we're done. And she came up with my Instagram handle. It's Money Mama Mentor. So there you go on Instagram. Anyway, I'm here this morning to talk to you about how to raise financially savvy kids. It's a topic near and dear to my heart because I have two children that I think I've done a pretty darn good job with. But anyway, we don't have very much time and I have a lot of info, so thus, take notes, whatever you want to do. If you have questions afterwards, I do offer a free 20-minute money chat. So you can go to my website and you can schedule that. So I'm just throwing that out there for you. It's free, no pressure whatsoever. So let's get started. Our relationship with money is personal, and we pass a lot of that on to our kids at a very early age. So teaching fiscal responsibility is one of the most important things that we can do for our children to foster independence, especially our daughters. It takes a little effort, but it has huge benefits when you teach your children to be financially savvy. Money conversations don't happen in a vacuum. Instead, they pop up at various times throughout the day, usually in those messy, teachable moments. So here's a few tips for you to take advantage of those moments and how to teach your kids to be financially savvy. So first of all, start the conversation earlier than you think you should. By the age of 3, kids begin to grasp the idea of value and exchange, and they can also delay gratification. So you can help them to delay gratification and help, like when you see them pretending to swipe a credit card or push buttons on an ATM or look through your wallet for spare change, it's time to start talking to them about where money comes from and how to pay and how to use it to pay for things. Number 2, keep it age appropriate. So stick to the truth when you're talking about money and adapt your message to your kid's level. For instance, if you lose your job and you're talking to your middle schooler, tell them, hey, we're going to be cooking at home more than eating out because it doesn't cost as much. If you're talking to your high schooler, and be honest and say, we're not going to be able to save as much for your college, but it will give you the opportunity to apply for more financial aid. Keep it real, but at the same time, offer assurance and reassurance that you and them will be okay. So keep it age appropriate. Never fib about how much money you have on you. Okay, so I'm totally guilty of this one. Anyway, honesty. It's natural to want to fib to avoid tantrums when we're passing our kid's favorite toy store or when we're in those difficult checkout line discussions, but try not to, even though it may seem harmless to tell your kid, I don't have any money to pay for that right now. Instead, maybe say something like, I know you want those gummy bears, but let's not buy those right now. It's not in our budget, and the dentist said, we should avoid those chewy treats. So straight talk is a good example to set, and if there are real reasons for your discussion, then definitely share them with your children. If it's not in your budget, tell them it's not in the budget. What kids won't believe is that we can't afford it, especially if you use your credit card to pay for something after pleading poverty. You'll be busted. Next, don't try to keep up with the Joneses because it will teach your kids to do the same. I know it's natural to compare with other people, especially since we live in a consumerist, instant gratification, media-driven society. But resist from making assumptions or drawing conclusions about another family's spending habits or values, especially when you're in hearing range of your kids. The ways that people choose to spend their money are very personal. If you want to teach your kids to avoid the trap of keeping up with the Joneses or looking down on your friends or neighbors, then steer clear of that behavior yourself. And don't expect your children to have money skills if all you've given them is money. What I mean by that is, if you're ready to send your kid off to college and you've never taught them any money principles and you hand them a credit card, don't expect them to know how to handle that. So let's talk about money skills. How do we teach those money skills? I'm a big believer in allowance, and I have 5 C's for how to give your kids an allowance. First of all, be clear. Keep it simple, realistic, and let your kids know what the money is to be used for. Now, as parents, we are responsible for the basic needs of our children. Shelter, clothing, food, we get that. But when it comes to an allowance, this is where your kids get to decide how they want to spend their money. Maybe for younger kids, it's, they can buy candy at a movie, or they can buy a small toy. Or for girls, sometimes we like to buy things for our hair, or, so let them decide what they want within reason, and then they can spend their money on it. Now, as kids get older, this is where, maybe you budgeted so much for a pair of shoes for your kid, and they want a more expensive pair of shoes. Well, let them pay the difference. If that's what they really want, then let them spend their money on that. So those are just some ideas. For high schoolers, they like to go out with their friends. Let them spend for those extra meals or extra treats or going to the movies. So think about it as age appropriate that way, but be clear. Number 2, be consistent. Stick to whatever you agreed to. So if you decide to pay your child weekly, pay them weekly. If you decide that, after 3 months, this isn't really working the way we had planned, sit down, have a discussion, readjust, and then move on. But be consistent. And number 3 is give control. Okay, so first of all, let me say, it's okay to have a few spending rules, like, you can limit the amount of candy that they buy in a week, or, if you're not into toy guns, no toy guns, or maybe you don't want your little girls buying lipstick. Hey, that's okay to set the rules. But in general, let your kids have freedom to buy what they want, especially as they enter middle and high school. Okay, so I get asked a lot of times, well, what's a rule of thumb for how much to give them? And it's not cast in concrete, but a typical rule is $1 for every age. So 5-year-olds get $5 a week, 10-year-olds, $10. So of course I had a client who, $10 a week, 52 a week, $520 a year I'm gonna give my, well, stop and think about that. First of all, is it in your budget? You always need to make sure you ask yourself that question. And then next, would you typically spend $520 a year in small things that now you're giving them the responsibility to decide what they want to purchase, what they want to spend their money on? In honesty, you probably would have spent more. So but anyway, it has to be within your budget. I would say that's number 1. Okay, so that was give control. 4 is use cash. It's been proven that we spend less when we pay with cash, and our kids need to learn that too. So don't give kids a debit card until they've got their first job, which is usually in high school, and then that's a really good tool to start teaching them about some money things, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So use cash. And 5 is no chores. Now let me clarify that. Chores are good for kids because they teach responsibility and importance of chipping in and contributing to the family. So I think it's a matter of what word we use here. So it's really important that kids contribute to the family. So you're not paying them to do things like put their toys away, or clear the table, or fold the laundry, or pick up after the pet, or whatever. Those are normal things that you as a family are contributing to. That's not why they're getting an allowance. And you shouldn't use your allowance, I would recommend not using your allowance as a leverage, because your kids aren't doing those tasks. That's not why you're paying them an allowance. And when I talk about chores, I'm talking about, work for pay, things over and above, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. So make it clear that being part of the family, you're expected to do certain things. That's not why you're getting an allowance. It's part of living here. Your allowance is to teach you money skills as you move forward. And so that's no chores. That's what I mean by no chores. Don't pay them for doing normal family tasks. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about teaching your kids to wait, save, and get what they want. You can teach your kids to wait, believe it or not. Most kids want stuff, and your job as a parent is to resist buying those things for them, even if that's the path of least resistance. Instead, help them to wait, save, and get some of those things with their own money. I'm going to tell you just a really quick story. I'm bragging on my grandson now. He had his Lego set. He wanted this Lego set. Well, he saved his allowance and was finally able to buy it. And so I got to take him to Target to buy it. And it was so cute. And the checkout clerk was super patient, but he was counting out his dollars, his quarters, his pennies. And she was, he graciously took all the change. And, but the look on his face, when he got to take that off, it was like, I bought this myself. And it was the first thing he'd ever bought with his allowance. I took a picture, it was just precious. Anyway, kids really appreciate more when they can save and then buy it with their own money. And of course, we have to show our children how to save. So I encouraged my kids with something very similar to this, and this is gonna be a raffle at the end of the sessions. But it has 3 little slots. One's for spend, one's for save, and one's for gift. And so every family can come up with their own. We did 70, 20, 10 is what we chose. 70 cents of every dollar went to spend, they could spend it, and 20 went to saving for longer term, and 10 went to gifting. And so it helps to teach your kids delayed gratification, which is a concept that's, so many people don't learn nowadays. And if you don't have the money, you don't get to buy it. And I want to emphasize, it's okay for your kids to make mistakes. I mean, that's part of teaching them is it's okay. This is a learning experience. So I'll use my daughter as an example. So I wanted my daughter to learn how to live within a budget while she was home. So high school is a great time. Well, we started earlier but at high school, I gave her clothes allowance for getting back to buying school clothes. This was when kids were still going to class. But anyway, we went through what was allowed, the dress code, and I gave her, this is the amount of money you have to spend, and we talked about a few things. Anyway, it was up to her. If she chose to buy 1 pair of expensive jeans and 2 tops, she was going to have a very limited wardrobe come to school time. But she learned really quick, to look for sales, and we went thrifting. We still do. It's some of the best times we have to go thrift shopping. But I wanted her to learn early that if she blew all of her money on 1 pair of jeans and 2 tops, she had to live with the consequences. But I wanted to do it then, not send her off with a credit card to college and you let her build up all this debt and not know how to handle it. So it's more important to teach them young how to handle money, make mistakes, guide them through it. Those are those teachable moments so that they're ready to go out on their own. And of course, we need to set a good example with our money habits. Instill financial awareness. So a couple ways that I did this was, when we went out to eat, it's like, help your kids look at how much things cost on the menu. Or when you're grocery shopping, you probably have your kids with you, or at least one. Teach them how to read the labels. What does that mean? How to compare, so much an ounce, and is it worth it? So those are teachable moments that add up. Okay, I want to move on to how to teach your kids to make money by working those extra jobs. And so this is where there are jobs that you may pay somebody else to do, so why not pay the kids to do it if they want to earn extra money? I'd say make it age appropriate, obviously, but it's simple things like pulling weeds in the garden, or watering plants, or cleaning out the garage, or babysitting, or mowing the lawn, or washing the car. Instead of going through the car wash, have them wash it. It might not be perfect, but you know what? It's an opportunity for them to do a task and to get paid for it. It teaches them to work for pay and to earn that extra money. And here's the deal. Make sure you pay them what it's worth. So this is a story from way back when. When I was babysitting, a long time ago, I got 50 cents an hour.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. No kidding. That's for poor, rambunctious boys.
Oh my God.
Well, that would not fly today, would it? It's probably more like $10 an hour. But anyway, pay them what it's worth. Don't cheat your kids. And then next topic, teach your kids how to manage their money and invest. So this is really important, especially as they get into junior high and high school, but as early as age 8. Kids learn about what money is by watching their parents. So things like talking to them about what a checking account is, how to balance it, how to use a debit card, especially when they get that first job. That they have to deduct the purchase from the balance in their account, how to use a credit card, the importance of a credit score. What is interest? If I don't pay my credit card off, what is it going to cost me? And then the importance of saving first and then buying. And my last topic is make investing fun and relatable. As a retired financial advisor, of course I love investing and everything about teaching your kids how to do it. So here's an easy way. Set up an account and ask the grandparents to contribute some of that birthday and Christmas money or holiday money to it. And then give your kids a choice of buying a couple stocks. So who doesn't want to have a share to a Disney or Nvidia or whatever going Microsoft or Apple or Stockpile.com is a really easy way to do it because you can buy fractional shares. So if you don't have the money to buy a whole share, you can buy fractional shares. Now the parents have to set it up so your kids can't go in there and day trade. but it's a great way to get them started and buy something that has a dividend so they can see it, reinvesting and buying a few more shares and growing. It's a great way to show them, I don't care if it's to save for their college or their first car or their first prom dress, but it's a way for them to start saving and seeing compounding value and how money can grow by investing. Okay, so that's it. The bottom line is raising financially savvy kids involves teaching them a variety of lessons from budgeting, planning, earning, investing, saving. Besides giving them an understanding of the value of a dollar, teaching your children about money helps prepare them for life in the real world. Money management is a vital life skill, and it's never too early to teach your kids to be financially savvy. Whew, I know that was a lot of information. I know I had limited time. A couple things. Okay, so this can be raffled off, and there's a little book I'm going to raffle off. I also had a book out there that if you have older kids, because I thought it was mainly younger kids, but Money Genius is an excellent book if you have kids of a variety of ages and you're looking, okay, how do I handle, middle school, not handle, but how do I teach middle school or high schoolers? So that's another resource I wanted to offer to you. Any questions? I don't know, do we have time for questions, Jamie?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I have one really quick. So we use our credit card mostly because we get like cashback rewards for it. So how would I talk to my kids about using that versus like I'm using cash, but it's within our budget when I use my card?
Well, I think it's really important so you're paying it off at the end of each month. So you teach them that. If you want to use a credit card for specific reasons, but I would say, but we've learned to live within our budget.
Okay.
And so I don't encourage young college kids or even younger people to do what you're doing until you've really learned how to live within your budget so that you're very disciplined in paying it off in full each month.
Okay.
But I think I would stress that we're paying it off in full each month. Mm-hmm.
So I have a 7-year-old who is I think a little too into the saving side. How do I encourage her to spend, that it's okay to spend the money? Because right now everything she gets, she's determined to put into her savings because she wants to go to Disneyland.
But she's saving for a purpose.
Yes,
Okay.
but I feel like it's a really big purpose. She's been saving for it for 3 years now without spending.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I do a better job of teaching her the balance of sometimes we can spend it? Does
Well,
that make sense?
first of all, I applaud her. If only we had more children like that. But well, I think it comes down to, so are there things she wants that she is asking you to buy for her?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, I think something like this might help, and maybe she would adjust her percentages, or you can help her. So maybe she would prefer putting 70 cents in the saving and 20 cents in the spending. But then when she's asking you to buy her things, well, here's her spending. So, and so maybe readjust the percentages, but put it in perspective. But, you shouldn't be buying her things if she has her allowance and And the other thing is you might think about, okay, you said that was a really big goal, so maybe is the family willing, or are you willing to maybe match her savings, or, 50 cents on the dollar or something like that, or is it a family goal that you're saving for? So maybe, are you saving for that as well, or is that just her goal?
So far, it's just her goal.
Okay, all right, well, that's fair. But anyway, I would adjust how much you're putting in different categories for her.
I'll leave a brother behind my house.
She's very focused, I can see that.
5 more minutes.
Oh, okay, great. Any other? How old are your kids? I should have asked you that.
I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old,
Okay.
so it's a little advanced, but
Yeah.
We like to play shopkeeper with the 3-year-old, so that's how she's
Yeah.
she knows what dollars are at least,
Well, and that's what I was gonna say, it's never too young to teach them numbers.
Yeah.
So, and we can do that, definitely at 3, even before that, in different varieties. And coins, 4, 5, 6, they learn what a penny, a nickel, a dime, a quarter is. And it's funny, I think it's funny because the younger kids want the coins, not a dollar, but then the older they get, 7, 8, it's like, I want the dollar.
Yeah.
So,
So I have a 3-year-old and then twin 2-year-olds.
oh wow, you're busy.
But my 3-year-old just getting into like the coins and dollars, so we just got him
Little
coin
cat.
box, so
Yeah.
he gave his first one. But he's just like collecting. He just thinks the more he has, the cooler. But I don't think he like
Understands
not
it.
understanding like I'm saving this.
Sure.
and that. But now that I'm thinking of like the word savvy, it's like when we need something, he's like, just order on Amazon, Mom. And it's like, or like out of like eggs when we were trying to bake. Well, just get Instacart, Mom. And it's like, this kid, like the new generation are creating.
Well, but they watch what we do.
There's food in packages.
But I think that's a teachable moment, is when you're ordering online, it's like, okay, so mommy's ordering online, but mommy has to pay for this too.
Yeah,
It just doesn't magically show up. I have to pay for this. Now, the way I'm paying for it is, you're working, daddy's working, somebody's working,
Make
we've
the
got income.
conversation quick.
Yeah, it will eventually, but they need to understand it. You don't just order it, but there's a consequence, and the consequence is you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, because I'm busy. I don't go to the store so often, and I'm just thinking, like, he's not really getting the practice there.
But you can even compare some shop online. I mean, So,
I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
okay.
Yeah, but my 3-year-old's the same, where she's just like, well, we can just get more, and I'm like, no, no, we can't. But
Well, it's not in the budget.
yeah,
This is what we have budgeted for right now. Yeah.
yeah, I haven't taken her to the Dollar Tree, and I'm like, you have $1.
That's
Everything
great.
else
That's a
costs
great
$1.
idea.
Yeah,
That's super.
She's been doing that
Good.
every once in a while. I
There you
think
go.
she gets it. We'll see. It's time.
Well,
At least
you know,
practice,
really,
because their
yeah.
money means
Yeah.
something that's not gonna get.
And starting at 3, have them put
Yes, she
$3
does have a pretty
and they
good
can
chin.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the Dollar Tree is, any place like that, it's, but they're going with their money then.
Yeah.
And so it makes a difference.
Yes.
You'll see them walk
Good
around
idea.
like, okay, do I want
I just did it with her yesterday. She was very like, maybe I don't want this. And
Yeah.
I put it back and kept one around looking, and so yeah.
Good for her.
I think I'll
Yeah.
try that.
Yeah.
I want to do it.
How old are your kids?
My husband has an 11-year-old, and then we have a 10-month-old.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah. 10-year spread, that's what I had.
Yeah. Do you ever share, because my 11-year-old's, one of his things is, well, you, that's cheap, but do you ever share with your kids how much your income is? Because, maybe $50 is cheap to you, but when my income is this, and these are we have all these bills, it's not cheap when what we have left over is this much in comparison.
I don't think it's necessary
Okay.
to share what your income, actually that book goes into it
Okay.
some. But what you can share is, this is how, I don't know what the item is, but you could say in the family budget, this is how much we have budgeted for that
Okay.
category.
That's a good idea.
And so, you may, I don't know where the cheap is coming from, but, so in our budget, that really isn't cheap, because we have to buy all these other items
Right.
in our category. So I
Okay.
think breaking it down into what the family budget is more relatable.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Do we need to?
Yeah, unfortunately, we need
Okay.
to go.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.
Yeah,
That was
thank you.
great.
Yeah.